But that party that we had at the Cheyenne Saloon downtown to announce going to MLS, I don't think there's been anything like that in MLS, and there never will be. And it was just so representative of what Orlando City was at the time. It was normally you do these things, stuffy press conference. We're like, nah, we're throwing a party, man. And the venue was a massive multi-story venue. It was packed. There was so many people outside that couldn't get in, that wanted to get in. That's when I remember thinking to myself, I mean, there's so many moments when I thought that, but I was like, yo, this is crazy. This is a big deal, man.
Hello and welcome back to Forever a Lion, an Orlando City podcast. This is an Orlando City podcast about the people around the club. Each episode, we dive into why people love this club so much and hear all about their Orlando City story. So settle in, grab a beverage, and let's talk some Orlando City. I am joined today by one of my oldest friends in the club, a guy that I used to live with, Mr. Jhamie Chin. What's up, Jhamie? How are you, bud?
What's up, my guy? I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. You must have been scraping the barrel for guests this week for me to make
Please.
the list, but I'm flattered nonetheless and excited. I get to kind of shoot the shit with you on here for a
I
little
can't
bit.
remember who it was. It was somebody in an episode. One of my guests I've had on specifically brought you up and said, "Hey, you're going to talk with Jhamie at some point." I was like, "Don't worry, he's on the list." It wasn't your brother, that's for
Okay,
sure. So
okay.
it was someone else.
I promise I'm not bribing people to get me like extra
Yeah,
PR.
yeah,
So, but
yeah,
shout
yeah.
out whoever that was that threw my name out there. Shout out to you.
They
We
remember,
appreciate that.
they
Yeah.
remember. So first question is who are you and what is your relationship to Orlando City and like what brought you to Orlando in the first place?
Yeah, good way to start. Jhamie Chin. So I'm from Orlando. Well, I grew up in Orlando. I moved there from Jamaica when I was 8 years old and then had lived there ever since. What brought me to Orlando was actually when the team, shortly after the team arrived, my brother, Dennis Chin, was able to make the team after basically being a walk-on, basically earning his spot through one of those private tryouts with Adrian Heath and the crew. And it was actually quite kind of funny because we had always talked growing up about, how cool it would be for there to be a professional team in our hometown. And for one of us, most likely him, to play for said team and for me to just be there to ride the wave. That's all I was thinking about. I played growing up, but I was never really serious about it in terms of wanting to be a pro. That was always his dream. For me, it was kind of how can I tag along? And so this team, Orlando City, came from Austin at the perfect time. I was just finishing up school. I reached out to Kay, the queen of Orlando, about an internship, and that's what got me to the club. And I remember going to those early games, like the preseason games at Disney, and just seeing the way the team played, this fan support that we already had that people said was not possible, and thinking, wow, I want to be a part of this. So I reached out to Kay just to do anything. She said, hey, we don't have something in PR, which you're studying, but we have this in ops. I was manual labor, but I didn't care. I was 21, 22, just happy to be there, and be along for the ride. So that was kind of my introduction to Orlando City back in 2012, I believe it was. And that's when I met you not long after that.
Yeah, I mean, me and you, I remember that summer we were both kind of interns. Like I interned like every different department over all of the different summers that I was there. But like that one summer you were there, I kind of think that was like Kelsey, I can't remember
Chelsea,
that, and
Chelsea
like
was there.
Mark
Yeah.
Whitty, and like there's a bunch of other people that then got full-time jobs later, like, but we're
Right.
in that kind of batch of, you know, let's say interns, but really you guys were like game day ops. Like you did a bit of everything, right?
Literally. Yeah. It was very much like all hands on deck at that time. You wore multiple hats. And I think back about that sometimes in my career. I think that really benefited me from a career standpoint because I got to see different types of sides of the business, to see maybe what I didn't want to do, what I wanted to do. And I think it just makes you more well-rounded when you're able to have opportunities like that early in your career. But to your point, it was such a crazy and fun environment because you really just had a bunch of kids working at the club at that time, and there was a few adults who were in charge of making sure we stayed on
Yeah.
track.
We
But
were
it
like,
was
the worker bees that had to go and make it
yes,
happen. You
yes,
needed youth for that.
right, right. And budgets weren't crazy at that time,
Yeah.
so we weren't really making much money, and we were having
Sports
so much fun.
budget's not big.
Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. I feel like we had in those early days. So, like, what was your first like memory of Orlando City? Was it going to watch Dennis do that trial, and then I know your dad was kind of involved in stuff too. So, was that the first time you ever heard about it?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of my first memory, obviously I'd heard about it as it was coming.
But did you go to a game like in those early days first? You said,
So before I interned, I was just a fan that 2011 season.
got you. So you were there
And
for that.
I was there for that. But that first game, I think against Philadelphia Union, that was at Wide World of Sports, I wasn't there for that because I was still at university in North Carolina. But I remember like, once the games are streamed and stuff, like I was watching the games. I was locked in from Charlotte, North Carolina. At first, it was mostly about the fact that my brother was gonna have the chance to play professional for this team, right? But then once I came home for the summer and started going to games at the Citrus Bowl, like I was hooked. I mean, we probably had 6 to 10,000 at most in the building, but to me it was like, whoa, this is a massive crowd. And the fans, the supporters at that time already were very, very good. They were very authentic. It was so unique to Orlando. It was so specific to Orlando. It didn't feel like they were just copying something from another market. You had to, in those days, the Trini steel drums going. And I also remember being so amazed with the way the team played, like keeping the ball. Like it was just a good game of football to watch more than anything. And I immediately became hooked. I went to every game that summer. And I think one of the best memories I have of Orlando City was that 2011 final, man. Like that was truly an unbelievable game. I don't think I've seen another sporting event that comes close to that. Doesn't matter how big it is, it doesn't matter. The game had everything, man. And I was a nervous wreck. I was all over the place. That game tested every emotion I had possible. And from then on, it was like, this is my club. So it was, yeah, it was kind of a culmination of all those things, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the 2011 final will live on forever as one of the greatest games I've ever watched, for
100%.
sure. So that internship then kind of rolled into you actually getting was a you were, I want to say, a communications what for the first job you had?
So,
I can't
yeah,
remember.
I'm trying to remember as well, but
What's below manager?
it wasn't even a coordinate. I mean,
Coordinator,
look,
right? Were you
yeah, it was
communications
coordinate.
coordinator? Was that your first job, like official, like
So
full time?
yes and no. So in 2012, that summer, that's when I had just come back from college. I was an ops intern.
Mm.
And that's when I, had that conversation with Kay and gotten in. And now I was working for the team, right, on game days, only game days, to your point. I wasn't going into the office with you guys and those things just yet. And actually, I'll get to this story next, but the legendary Joe Ball, that was another intern that was rolling around with
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
And I'll tell the story now. I'll never forget Joe being an intern on game days and ops as well. But back in those days, we'd also go out and stuff as well. And we used to like to say we were on the team from time to time, to maybe get some extra attention from the ladies,
Where
etc.
this
You
is
know where
going.
I'm going with this story. And in ops, we had to wear this red polo, khaki shorts, walkie-talkie on the hip, earpiece here, right? Because the massive stadium, you were radioing around.
The khaki pants was too much, really. Let's be honest.
It was not a fit I would wear today.
It
Let's
was
put it that way.
too.
But it also did not scream
I'm having
professional athlete.
flashbacks of wearing that out.
So Joe had told a young lady on a night out, we played for the team, et cetera, et cetera. And she happened to be at a game not long after that and saw Joe Ball. Joe, sorry I'm putting you on blast right now on this podcast, but the story's too
I
good
don't.
not to
I don't
tell it.
think Joe remember.
The woman saw Joe on the sidelines with a polo on, a walkie-talkie, and a headset, and was wondering, this guy doesn't look like a player. I think sent him a message asking him what's going on. And my man, quick on his feet, I probably wouldn't have thought of this. Said, nah, I'm injured this week, so I'm helping out the club with some work on this. And she totally bought it. I think to this day, she probably thinks, hey, I hung out with an Orlando City player once upon a time. And probably can't get away with those antics today. But that's just like, we just wanted to be a part of the club. We were just having so much fun with it. But that always stands out as like one of the key moments of my internship. But to get back to your question now is when it was always supposed to end when the season ended, which was in September at that time as he went to the final. And Teresa Tatlonghari had just come on not long before that as the head of marketing. And I kind of just said to her, hey, if something ever opens up, I'd love to join the marketing team, etc. And towards the end of the season, I'm trying to figure out, okay, I've just finished college. What do I want to do? I don't know what's going to happen here. Thankfully, she reached out. She remembered that conversation and said, hey, we're actually going to make some changes with the department. We're going to need some help. Do you want to get involved? And that's when I came on actually as a day-to-day intern in the office. I think I was just PR and marketing intern, I think was the title on my business card that I put all over social media thinking I had made it. And that's how I joined. Chris Jones, Austin, James was there. You, I think, were still in England coming back and forth at that time. So you hadn't come in the office just yet, but obviously I'd already met you. And then from there, just kind of continued to progress more than into a full-time coordinator role and et cetera and et cetera. And we got into MLS. Kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah,
The marketing like wing of that Winter Park office, which was,
oh my God,
it was like its own little annex, and it had like it was like the senior member of the staff, and then there's me.
She was the mother of the group. She was the mom of the group.
She was. I didn't want to say that, but she was in a weird way. There's a bunch of kids that she was babysitting, doing all this hard work. But Austin Hitzel, of course, who's with the Falcons.
Yeah.
James, who else was there? Me, you, Chris, of course.
Chris Jones was there. We had the foosball table. We had a rotating cast of interns. You remember, like Andy?
Yeah, guys do that.
Yeah, we had that round table.
Guys working on the foosball table because there wasn't enough desks. I remember that.
Literally.
It was like find a corner with your laptop and get to work. So that was the fun end of the office, the really fun end.
It was. And like before that, we were in another part of the office that was more connected to this main office, which was a very small office to begin with. I used to remember, and this would happen to James all the time, but eventually I would get caught with this. There was that conference room right there at the front. Yeah. Whenever there was that morning meeting, it's all glass, this room. Like if you were late, there was no way to hide it. You know what I mean? James and I definitely got caught up with that with some glares coming from Phil and everybody else, in the meeting. But we were there, and then, I don't know if it was for more space or they just said, this group is too loud and rambunctious. We got to give them their own wing. So to your point, we were basically like annexed, but still connected to the group. And I think in a lot of ways, like that kind of just allowed us to be creative, to just come up with shit, to be stupid, right? Just be kids.
That's where we came up with like the manatees and like the billboard stuff and like so many fun ideas in that office.
100%. It was just this creative breeding ground, if you will. And, the other thing I was thinking about too, when you mentioned all those names, is like the Orlando City pipeline or tree is like, Austin's doing great things at the Falcons. Like there's so many people that have come through that Orlando City pipeline and have gone on to do really great things. And I think that time at Orlando City had a lot to do with that, man, because I still tell people to this day, it's the most fun I've ever had in my career, Yeah. It was just a blast. Everybody was super passionate about building this club, and it didn't feel like a job. I know that sounds cliche to say, but it really didn't.
And also we were like the cool new thing in town. Like you said, we would go out and like people would be like, whoa, you guys work for the soccer team? That's so
there was some clout. Like, wow. There was some clout that came with it.
It was definitely it was fun to be part of something new and a startup. It was a startup in many ways. And
100%.
And then we moved to the bigger offices that were down in South Street, and that was a lot of fun. And then eventually you were there part of the team that opened the stadium. And during that time, you went to like manager. And then eventually, when you left Orlando City, like what was your final sort of responsibilities? Like what were you doing?
So
let people know how that developed.
Yeah, I think I had after 2015 going into 2016. So after that expansion season. I had just been promoted to manager, and then the opportunity came with Portland, which we can talk about later, or not at all if we don't want to. But basically, you kind of have these like sports comms positions now that are very common, but I was sort of the day-to-day team PR rep. So I was at training every single day, facilitating the media access. We had media training that could watch 15 minutes of every session, and then they would get to interview the players afterwards. And the reason I'm laughing as I'm telling the story is because I vividly remember, like in those days, we didn't really know, like we were figuring out this MLS model on the communication side, right? And MLS, like we didn't have media training in USL. It just,
Yeah.
if we did, it was a big deal, right?
Adrian would be like, no, I'm not
Right.
having that.
Or he just wouldn't allow it,
Yeah, like,
like
no,
it
I don't
was,
care what you I'm not having it.
right.
Yeah.
And so it was very, those
Yeah.
things, we didn't really have to deal with that as much. And so now you go into MLS where they have certain mandates around training that's an access that is aligned with the American sports model. But Adrian is as traditional as they come. I mean, we couldn't even step on the field as staff, the training field. It was hallowed ground, as he would say. We had to be on the sidelines. So, and now we're this global brand, right? Because we have Ricky Kaká. And so the media attention and we're in MLS is on a different level. And so we have all this press at training. We have to let them in for at least 15 minutes. And at that time, I don't know why we did it this way because most teams now in MLS and around the country, they do the first 15 minutes because you just see the warm ups and you don't see anything tactical. Back then, for some reason, we were doing last 15 minutes. So the assistant coach would kind of signal to you, hey, we're getting to the last 15 minutes. And I vividly remember opening the gate there at Sylvan to let the media in, and they're in full 11v11, the team and the bibs and stuff 2 days before the game. And Adrian is across the other side of the field just giving me the full hairdresser. How are you guys? Hair dryer, as you guys call it in England. Like right there in front of the media. And I'm like panicked, like they're locking the media out and they're yelling at me that they're supposed to be in there. And I was just sweating, bro. Like I did not know what the hell to do. But that was a big part of my job. And then on game days, same thing, post game press conferences, open locker room, the game notes, really a lot of the grunt work of the department at that time, writing press releases, things of that nature. But it was very team focused. We had people that were doing kind of the brand side and like bigger campaigns and stuff. I was the day to day in the trenches with the team each day, which I love to do. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you got to, you get to meet a lot of players and coaches in that job that you've done. It's a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Definitely, definitely.
From there, like, tell us about where, obviously, you left to go work for Portland. No,
Yeah.
no problem there, Jhamie. And then from there, where have you gone from there? Tell people your story after Orlando.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was called Judas for a while by Mr.
What?
Adrian Heath.
No,
Mr.
I would never. I would
No,
never.
and yes, I won't name a few others like yourself.
I do remember picking up the phone and like being like calling Portland Timbers and being like, "Is Jhamie Chin there? I got something to say from Orlando."
I mean, like, this is the type of
Yeah.
stuff we used to do. Like, and
Yeah.
even the memes we'd make, we used to make memes back then. We posted by our desk with the other team members and stuff just for banter. But quickly with the Portland thing, I remember I think maybe you had been to Portland before, but we went in 2014
Yeah.
as a group, some of us, marketing comms,
I used to go
ownership
every year for merch. They used to have the big merch conference there.
in Adidas, right? Yes.
Because Adidas
Yeah.
and Nike, Nike are there as well. For NWSL, I went as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, yeah. So, but that was my first time out there, and we went to go kind of learn from them before we made the jump up to MLS. And I remember we went to that game, both at the Sounders and Timbers, and thinking to myself, like, Portland really stood out to me. It felt so authentic. It felt just like an European, I felt very like I was in Europe, basically. And I thought to myself, I really wasn't thinking about leaving Orlando City at that time, but I was just so amazed by it. And then I remember at the end of the 2015 season, I think they still do it. They would call up one senior PR person from each conference as sort of a reward, one from the East, one from the West, to go and work MLS Cup and basically help out MLS comms. And I was lucky enough to get that call up in 2015, and it was the Timbers versus Columbus Crew in Columbus. Timbers won the game. It was the famous Diego Valeri scored in 30 seconds off that mistake from Steve Clark. The ball went out of bounds on the second one, but it was no VAR. Nagy brings it back in. They scored a second, go up 2-0 early in the first half. And I was photo marshaling, and I was right below the Timbers Army away section, and they were rocking, bro. It was like 4,000 of them. They're deep. They had the fucking log, Timber Joey with the chainsaw, all the madness. That coupled with the experience we had, like I still have pictures of you and I when we'd walk down to buy the TA and we had a beer and stuff. I was like, man, and I, believe in the universe and all that stuff. I was like, this is crazy. Like, it would be cool to experience this. 1 month later, I guess the media relations manager there, who was basically doing what I was doing in Orlando, after they won the cup, he said, I'm going out on a high. I've been here 5-6 years. He decided to move on. And they reached out to me to see if I'd be interested. And it was a really tough decision But I mostly made that decision kind of for my career long term, thinking, okay, I had this really good experience with an expansion team. Orlando City was changing in some ways too, which was a factor. But now I can go to a team that's been a brand since the 70s and see how they do it at a more established level and learn from them. So went to Portland, man, not knowing anybody. You and James came to visit me early on. We had a really nice time in Portland. And then I was there for 2.5 years, basically doing what I described with Orlando City as the comms manager there as well.
And then from Portland, you went to Chicago, and then from Chicago, now you with FIFA. So, give us
Yeah,
a little
man.
bit of, what it's like working down in South Florida for FIFA and all that.
Man, listen, football has, it sounds cheesy, but it's been my whole life, man. Like it's crazy when I sit down and think about that. And it's taken me all over the world, or yeah, all over the world. And so I moved around a lot. As you mentioned, I basically did a giant loop,
I
but
didn't think about that. You have done a giant loop of the US.
giant loop.
You
I
got
went as
all the
far
way
as you
in.
could
Yeah,
go.
come back to
So,
Florida.
yeah, and it's I'm getting out to the age where I'm like, okay, I need to settle down a little bit. My wife really ain't about the moving every couple of years or whatever. But anyways, I was there 2.5 years, same thing. Again, wasn't thinking about leaving. A Chicago Fire reached out. And I'll be honest, at first I wasn't considering it at all when I heard about the opportunity because to leave Portland for a club like Chicago that was very much struggling at that time, I thought it'd make sense. But I got on the phone with them. I said, okay, let me hear them out. And there was a lot of new leadership coming in the club at that time, and they really had this vision of how they wanted to revive the Chicago Fire. And I thought to myself, okay, I had the experience startup club, like you said, established brand. This was kind of a blend of the two. Legacy team that had been around since the 90s,
Yeah,
but it was trying to revive itself.
a
And
rebrand.
exactly, there was
Yeah,
that startup energy to it, but you had this negative past to counteract. So it was an interesting challenge. Big market, never done that before either. And I really loved my time at the Timbers, but they had a very clear way of doing things, and there wasn't a lot of invention outside of that. It's like, how can we do what we're already doing better? But it wasn't a whole lot of room for creativity. They had their brand, they had the connection with the fans. It was kind of maximizing that, I guess, if that makes sense. And so I thought, hey, this is an opportunity I could kind of get back to maybe what I had in Orlando. And it was a step up career-wise as well. So I went out to Chicago Fire in the summer of 2018 after 2.5 years of the Timbers as the director of sports communications. Was with the club for 7 years. And it really taught me a lot in that time, just being in a bigger market, dealing with more competition. And then so I grew over that time from just director of sports comms to senior director of communications. So now I was overseeing corporate communications and brand communications while managing a team, something I'd never done before. And so it really stretched me in a lot of ways. Also a tough decision to leave there, but 7 years in, opportunity came to join FIFA, which I sought out this time as opposed to them coming to me. Chance to work a World Cup. I've never been to a World Cup as a fan. I've watched many World Cups. I've never been to a World Cup as a fan. Chance to get back to Florida, better weather. So personal reasons as well. And then the final step was to negotiate with my wife on the move. And thankfully she was supportive and then moved down to FIFA to Miami in FIFA to join FIFA in April of this year. And the role is the senior media relations officer for the US. I feel like I should have a badge when I say that title with the officer on there. And the easiest way to describe it is I'm basically responsible for promoting and protecting FIFA's image in the US. So that's
well,
the explanation in a
that's
nutshell.
a
Yeah.
big. You definitely should have a badge. I feel like like if agricultural, like guys, if there's like farm police, there should be like a
Yeah.
FIFA police. So, like we're here to arrest this man because
You're
he,
right.
you
I'm
know,
gonna suggest that. We need badges.
yeah,
We
I think
need
you
badges.
should. It'd make you more official. All right, let's talk a little bit of some of your memories of Orlando City. What is your kind of favorite like off field memory? So not a moment on the field, not a moment of play, but like do you have any memories from your time working there or just being a fan? You're like, that was like
Off the field. What's off the field that's safe for the airwaves
yeah.
and safe for my career? Because
Yeah.
there's so many that come
I,
to
w-
mind.
I was talking with Jamie Watson about when we went to Makos, so that threw back some memories. There's some old, we had a lot of nights out.
Oh my God, some
I
some
remember
some Christmas
playing pool
parties.
against Lee Win. Do you remember that?
Okay, that's yes, yes. But to go further than that, we cannot talk about that on
No,
this
no, no,
platform.
no. But who else was there? Was Breck Shea there at that time?
Breck Shea was
It
there.
was
I
Breck
don't know if
Shea,
he
Lee
remembers
Win.
being there. He's not a player anymore, so I can say that. But he was there. He might not remember
There's a
being there,
few
but he
other
was there.
players there.
Eric
We
Avila,
were out.
Kyle
We were
Larin.
out. Let's say Kyle Larin was there. I remember beating Lee Win at pool, and he was
You
not
did.
happy
You
about
were
it.
very proud about
I
that.
was
We went
very
home as
proud about it.
roommates, and you
Of
were
course.
beaming. You
I
were.
was so happy. I was like, Lee Win is a professional soccer player. He's not good at pool. Watch
It was a
this.
convincing victory, if I remember
It
correctly,
was.
as
I was
well.
very. So anything else like
Memory's a
that?
little hazy.
Yeah, hazy is a good word.
I mean, honestly, man, there are so many off the field memories. Like, there's so many moments just in the office. Like, I remember Callum Shepard, who's still with the club, busting his ass on that skateboard in our side of the wing. I don't know if you remember that. He had
Yeah,
that
I
little
do
skateboard.
remember
He
that.
came in and completely wiped out. There was all the whole Jackson content series that we had with Chris Jones. Chris Jones, for everyone who doesn't know, was the OG original head of comms for Orlando City. I used to work with him. He's around my age, but I used to report to Chris. Chris taught me a lot as well before he moved on, I think around 2013. But he had this little teddy bear, Jackson, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And when I tell you, we really put our creative content to use with this damn Jaguar. We would kidnap this Jaguar from him and put it through the absolute ringer. I mean, I think at one time we threw him off the top of the Citrus Bowl and filmed it. It became this like, where is Jackson and
Yeah.
what's happening to Jackson? I love that.
Like if TikTok and like shorts was
We
a
would have been
thing
viral.
during
We would have
that,
been
yeah,
viral.
there would have been like a viral series of how we're abusing Jackson the Jaguar this week. Like it was hilarious. Yeah, that's a good
Poor
one.
Jackson for
I
no
forgot
reason.
about
For
that.
no reason other than it was
Yeah,
just fun to make fun of Chris.
you get upset, you take his teddy bear.
Yeah, me and Austin Hiddle, we made so many like fun blooper videos, many of which can't
Yeah,
be ever aired for our own sake. But I will say, honestly, one of my favorite off the field memories though, like there's so many, but that party that we had at the Cheyenne Saloon downtown to announce going to MLS, I don't think there's been anything like that in MLS, and there never will be. And it was just so representative of what Orlando City was at the time. It was normally you do these things, a stuffy press conference. We're like, nah, we're throwing a party, man. And the venue was a massive multi-story venue. It was packed. There was so many people outside that couldn't get in, that wanted to get in. That's when I remember thinking to myself, I mean, there's so many moments when I thought that, but I was like, yo, this is crazy. This is a big deal, man. Kaká on Wall Street was another one. His
yeah,
airport arrival,
that's a
like,
good one. Yeah,
there's so many. Like, I
yeah.
can't pick one. There's so many. It was just
That
amazing.
Kaká day, I feel like was literally like dream team. Like we had so it was
Yes.
like all over the city. We had things happening. Like you were running around with them everywhere.
Oh
You
my
guys
God.
went from like the airport to like several studios to like downtown to like it was so cool.
And mind you, we were just a bunch of USL. Like,
Mhm.
it's not a
Yeah.
knock to USL. Is
No,
we had
no,
this
we hadn't
global
even played a
icon.
game in MLS
We
and we
were
are doing this. Yeah.
we were saying I was laughing at myself about this the other day when James will die if he ever hears the story because he loved this. But I remember again, I'm kind of new to this PR thing. I'm just learning it, and we're at the airport. We're at the airport, and all the fans are there, and obviously everyone's there for Kaká to arrive. And there have been some rumors. We've been teasing that he's coming. And Pat Clark from NBC, we had some media there, and he asked me kind of like off the record, so does this mean he's signing with the team, And now I know how to navigate those conversations on background off the record much better than then. I froze up. I didn't know what to say. So I said, possibly, right? And so obviously he was coming. I'm like, possibly. And so we're sitting later that evening watching the news and they're recapping the event. Oh, Kaká came through and and all the fans here. And when we asked an Orlando City spokesperson if this means Kaká is coming to Orlando City, he said, possibly.
Yeah.
Like,
We're true politicians, you know. Yeah. Outlook
think,
outlook good. I don't know.
I
Wild
was
thing,
like,
dude.
I don't know why that like it was so
Yeah.
obvious. The answer was yes, but I didn't
Yeah.
know what to do, and I just was like, that's the first thing that came out.
We had
It was
all
just one of
those.
those how far we've come moment, but also it's just representative of like we grew up overnight and we just had to embrace it, and it's not necessarily that we were ready for it, and it we just became a global club and from this minor league teams, and it was so that always stuck with me, man. I was just thinking about that the other day, like. Jesus. What were you thinking in that moment? What were you thinking? Shout out Pat Clark, by the way, if he's listening at
That's
all.
funny.
The
That is
guy who
funny.
doubted us from the jump.
Yeah, you did indeed. All right. I know you mentioned the 2011 final, but your favorite on-field memory, would that be it, or do you have another one, or like a goal or a moment that you were just like, wow, that was awesome?
Oh, again, very hard to choose. I'm going to have to give you a couple, John, because I
Yeah,
can't
please.
pick one. It's
Yeah, give me
impossible to
so
pick
many.
one. 2011, for sure. No particular order is there. 2013 as well, though. 2013 final. Few, and we just had Dom coming back as well. Like it was,
Yeah,
we had 30,000, 20 something thousand attendance. Yeah. And we had 30,000 or something. It was, and we had just gotten MLS approval. We just about to get it right after that. And it was like, we're here and this is a real thing. That was big. Also, the Newcastle win was in 2011. I don't know if you remember that. That was like a holy shit. We just beat Newcastle.
yeah,
Uh, and I think Dennis had gotten fouled during the penalty too. And then I can't forget Phil the Bowl, man. Phil the Bowl 2015. 52,510. I still remember the exact number. I remember looking up. We have that picture of us on the field, me, you, Jim, and
yeah,
and Pops there. And it was just, I mean, you remember, there was so much hard work to get to that point, and to sit there and be like, okay, we weren't it's not single-handedly from my effort, but I played a part in making this happen. We fucking
yeah,
did it. It was. I get goosebumps like talking about it, to be
yeah. I
honest.
mean, to see that stadium go from when we had the USL like final, like that we thought, oh my god, we had 20,000 people. The Citrus Bowl is so full. To see 62,000 is like, what on
A
earth just
wall of
happened?
purple. It felt like the
Yeah.
purple just would never
And
end,
that
you
and
know?
that was at the end of the same day that we had, like that we had all of that other stuff happen. Like that whole day was just a blur of chaos and fun. But
What are yours though? What would be your top on the field moments?
on the field moments for me,
Yeah. You will have more being there longer, obviously now with MLS too.
yeah, I mean, there's so many. I don't even.
It's tough to choose.
I think there's just some goals that I remember just being like incredible moments and goals. I think overall for me, it's probably gonna be a toss up between the 2011 final and the Open Cup win. I think those
My
two,
Lord.
they're very different, but those two stand out most in my memory. I think also the opening day, like
Yeah.
the game wasn't so like for not on the field the game, but like the
Yeah.
whole day
Yeah.
of Fill the Bowl, like that is one of my favorite memories of just working that game and being involved in that.
I love
Um,
that. I
for
love that.
sure. All right, I got a few more questions for you,
Okay.
and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
All right, some easier ones. Who's your favorite Orlando City player of all time? You can name a few.
I mean, you know what my answer is gonna be
And you
here.
don't
I'm gonna
have to
say
name Dennis. I'll let you off that right now. You don't
he
have to play
is.
favorites.
So most of mine are gonna be the OG guys, but I'll
Yeah.
give a few. So I would say Dennis for sure.
Who
I have
doesn't love
to.
watching their brother score goals? That's got to be cool.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Molino for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Wow, that 2014 season.
Yeah.
I still think if he didn't tear his ACL in 2015, he would. I mean, even Kaká was saying at that time, this guy
Yeah.
could play in Europe. He was recommending him to AC Milan. What a player. Ricky Kaká as well. Just to see the way this guy worked every day, and he's great. I mean, so many magical moments, but also that goal and fill the bowl. I would say it was another moment too to tie it there at the end and rescue losing on in that home opener. Mm, who else? Kyle Larin was also, is a good friend of mine, and I liked watching him play. He scored a lot of goals for Orlando City as well. And then last but not least, I'm gonna put one more OG in there. And this might not be what you expect, but Miguel Gallardo.
Hey, he's on mine, man.
Is he, dude? I
Yeah.
loved Miguel was so good with his feet. I'd never
Yeah.
seen anything like that at that time, like live. He was ahead of his time in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. And
Yep.
he could save the ball pretty damn well too. So yeah, those would be my five.
He's
My
the
round
face
my,
of the USL era in many ways, like he was
definitely.
the consistent,
Definitely.
always there.
It was a tough choice between him and Jamie Watson for that last spot for me because Jamie Watson would get you double digit goals and assists. You know, he was in that threshold usually. And also a guy that was very much the face too, to your point. So yeah, that would be my Mount Rushmore.
Well, they're all guys I've
Orlando.
already talked to here, so you can, if you're interested, everybody go listen to those episodes. All right.
Yeah.
Is there any part of the club that you like really enjoyed that we haven't talked about? Like, anything that you're like, you know what, this was something about Orlando City that I loved and like really, not many people knew about it, or you just want to give it a shout out.
That's a great question.
It could be like maybe the community stuff you did, or anything to do with, I don't know, any parts of game days, or like maybe the press box. I mean, that's something that you kind of
Yeah.
always have that relationship, in that press box.
Yeah. I mean, I think all the above. Uh, I think it was just the way how the club connected itself to the community. I just thought was so special. And we were talking about this a little bit before we got on air. I think we need more of that in the game again today.
Yeah. That
And then it does.
grassroots, like family feel.
Yeah, we were getting it out the mud, man. It was straight guerrilla marketing, guerrilla warfare, and just we were
Yeah.
so connected with the fans. I felt like they really knew who worked for the club and vice versa, as opposed to them just being another name on a spreadsheet. That kind of connection between fans and clubs, I thought was so special. That's what I loved about it, amongst many other things. Yeah.
All right. This one's a mushy one. What does Orlando City mean to you, like personally?
Oh, family, man. I would say family, bro. To be honest, like it was a family run club. And then I feel like also my family was in every corner of the club too. Well, they were not the owners or investors, but I had my little brothers in the academy in the youth club. My brother was playing for the club. I was working for the club. My brother's wife, sorry for the Miami background,
Hey,
ambiance.
you gotta be.
Yeah, my brother's now wife worked for the club. But the fans, like I was talking about with that connection, family, man. I think that's what made it so special. Yeah.
That was the early days. The early days. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
We
Yes,
talked
sir.
about it a little bit, like some of the, places that we used to go out, but like when you're in Orlando now, or, whenever you come back in town, or maybe back then, where are the favorite places that you like to go? Are there any like restaurants or, bars, or maybe one of the parks? Where's Jhamie Chin love in Orlando?
Orlando City related or just in general
It
in
could be
Orlando?
Orlando City. Maybe when you work there, this is somewhere you love to go, or maybe some places out in Aveda, about
Vader,
out in your
Vader.
hometown. You want to shout out some local Aveda restaurants that we don't know about.
Vader, Harry Buffaloes, man.
That
Shout out Harry
that is a good one.
Buffaloes.
That's perfect. Yes, exactly. Harry Buffalo.
Harry Buffaloes. You know what I loved about those days,
Yes.
man? We'd go to the game. We'd
Yeah.
go to Harry Buffaloes after the game. The players would be there. The fans would be there. We'd have a pint together, coming together as a family. We did events there, town halls there. I said that as a joke, but I love that about Harry
No,
Buffaloes. Now, to
that's
be honest,
that's the right answer. Yeah.
now where I go, where I used to go before. I was a downtown Orlando rat. I was down there, making sure the guys were looked after, and they maybe
Yeah.
shouldn't have been down there setting things up for them. Now I'm a Mills 50 guy. I'm a Mills 50 guy through and through. You got Wally's over there. I still like some of the food trucks and stuff that are over there too. No, Mills
Yeah.
50, I feel like you can't go wrong in that area as well. Gringos Locos back in the day, my God, it's all
Yeah,
coming
man.
back to me now in
Only
the Mills
place up
District.
until 2 a.m. where you get those late night tacos.
You might feel it the next
Yeah.
day, but in the moment, oh,
Wally's
brother.
has been gentrified. You know what I mean? Like Wally's got like
Yeah.
woke. You know what I mean? It used to be one thing, and now it's another. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
that
That's
part of
true.
town, but it's still a great night out. So, Jhamie,
Yeah,
man,
man.
I appreciate you coming on the podcast and giving. As I feel like we're just sitting here reminiscing like old times.
100%, my guy.
Hopefully all of you at home enjoyed and learned a little bit more about Jhamie and his story and everything that he did for Orlando City and where he's coming from. So if you enjoyed that, please go ahead and drop us a like on the podcast. You can find more episodes like this if you go back on YouTube or Spotify or wherever. I've got lots of people, including Jamie's brother. I did a whole episode with Dennis. So you can subscribe to us on YouTube, listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. If you can, leave us a 5-star rating. That helps so more people will find the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.